Welcome back to Yellow Card Vanguard. That's it, folks. Spoiler season is over. The set is out in Japan. It's only a month or so before it comes out in English. That's right, it's Clan Collection Volumes 3 and 4. And as is tradition here, we're going to do that winners and losers video. Now, a few quick changes from the last times we've done this. The first one is, as you can see, the graph looks a little bit different. We're going 2D, that's right. It's not just winners and losers. We have a continuous range, everything in between. And we've got two metrics now. So the first one, from Poggers to Sadge, is how excited we are for the cards. Doesn't matter how good they are, just how much we're looking forward to them. And then along the horizontal axis, we have Stonks and Stonksn't, is how good they actually are as cards, like whether or not they're going to make an impact on the game. So, that's explaining what we're going to do today. Any comments from you, Tony?
I think I'm just excited to get on with everything. I think one of the main things to notice about this is that this Clan Collection 3 and 4, it did not produce a lot of strong boss units, save for a few some, but it did give us a lot of really strong support. So when looking at these icons, you might only see one unit, but we're going to actually take a look at the entire clan as a whole with regards to Clan Collection to kind of like evaluate where we want to put them on this alignment chart.
Yeah, that's also really important. So for example, if there's a card that doesn't appear on the icon, like say Yadagarasu or Brilliant Blister, we will make sure to specify this is the card we're talking about and this is what makes that clan positioned where it is. But yeah, I think without further ado, we'll just jump straight into it. And first up on the list here, we have Bermuda Triangle. So the main face icon of this set is Refiarade Rock.
Mm-hmm.
The other two cards are just support for that playstyle, or just generically good Bermuda cards. There's nothing really special about it. It's kind of cool. I think the only sad thing is that they restricted the Fina loop in the most recent premium ban list, so going Refiarade into the Fina loop was no longer a viable option. But you can still do some things. Sure, Riviera is there's no point farming the force markers anymore, so Refiarade Rock gives you a different reason to play Refiarade, but it just still feels very unimpactful because you're generating a few extra force markers and then you lose them all, and I just don't see how this is at all better than anything Bermuda has done up until this point, be it Highlander and Premium or Prism and V. So in terms of excitement, it's pretty low down for me, and in terms of quality, it's also pretty low down for me.
Alright. I agree on the basis of the grade 3, Refiarade Rock, but one of the cards that really stood out to me was the new grade 2 being Seria. Actually, just a pot of avarice on legs. And I think Seria being such a good card also kind of demonstrates an illustration about Bermuda Triangle at the moment, is that every other deck in Bermuda Triangle can use all of the cards that Refiarade can use, but better. So in Prism, let's talk about in context of Prism. You can call down the Seria, get the Pot of Avarice skill, becomes a 20k attacker, bounce it back for next turn so you can Pot of Avarice again. You just keep cycling your deck, keep shuffling it with all of your heal cycle, with all your heal triggers cycling. I think that card is insane. The grade 1 though, I don't know how to solve the grade 1. I don't know what decks build a lot of soul to use it for, so I don't have a strong statement on that. Even in Premium as well, the deck that used to build a lot of soul used to use a Trois as a way of using that soul, but now they might be able to use it, being Riviera with all the rewrites and stuff. But like you said, I'm not too hot on Refiarade Rock. My excitement was a bit higher because I thought it was really cute that in this clan collection, with all these reverse units coming out and Lock being the prominent feature of more introductions into clan, and Refiarade turning that into Rock instead, I thought that was kind of cute. But the card itself did not spark joy. So I'm willing to, in terms of Refiarade, she's kind of Refiarade Rock, she's kind of on the Stonksn't side. But the Pot of Avarice is very Stonks. I can't figure out where to put the grade 1, but I'm willing to put him down here.
Yeah, the grade 2 is definitely the standout card, the Seria, in the set. It's just a case of, again, in Prism you don't really have a lot of space because you're already playing the Aqua and you're already playing the Lees a lot. So finding space for 4 copies of that's going to be hard. And then Highlander is Highlander, so you're only playing one of. So the overall impact, I think, is just not Stonks enough.
Mm-hmm. Alright, let's go into the next one. I'll lead us off because it is Aqua Force, one of my favorite clans. So just know that Maelstrom Reverse did get his introduction in this clan collection. I was already up here in Poggers, like enough to like actually make the screen move. But after seeing the card and realizing that I'm still kind of probably going to look to win games on Maelstrom Glory, my Stonks value went from here-ish to here. I do value that Maelstrom Reverse can become like a board wipe and is really good into certain matchups that empty their board, i.e. Granblue and Pale Moon. But even in those matchups, I do think Glory works as a better finisher. So I'm willing to still have my excitement really high. But as for Stonks and Stonksn't value, I'm leaning towards the left.
Yeah, I'm also pretty excited about Maelstrom because it was one of the first reverse cards I ever saw, one of the first cards I ever like had experience playing against competitively. And, like Maelstrom's always been my favorite Aqua Force like sub-archetype anyway. So yeah, I was also very excited for it. Plus, I was also very excited to gain Axel markers and Link Joker in a way that was meaningful. But unfortunately, Maelstrom just didn't do it in a meaningful way because he's Maelstrom locked, like most Maelstrom cards as you would expect. But he's not a better grade 3 ride than base Maelstrom because you have press stream and you have all the on-hit effects to give you the guaranteed restand. And he's just not a better finisher than Glory because, sure, in an ideal world, you're ripping like, what, 3, maybe 4 cards out of their hand? But Glory is ripping like, 6, 7 cards out of their hand, plus guaranteed to deal damage because they can only guard so many attacks. So yeah, it's just a bunch of hoops for, you're jumping through twice as many hoops for maybe like 1.1 times as much reward. So yeah, I think it's probably top of the chart, but very far left. And I think it kind of goes the same like on the support as well. Like the grade 2 that we got, the Valeria, is a really cool card, but again, like it's just why would I ever use this when Coral Assault exists, Terrific Coil exists, etc., etc. Like it being an on hit for both Vanguard and Rearguard is really cool. But then needing to commit for the third battle on turn 2 in Aqua Force is really costly, and I don't know if I'm willing to commit that hard. And like, if I need a 19k attacker, I have Coral Assault, so I just don't see a strict need for this card. But the one thing that I do want to talk about is Cobalt Wave, because that card is very cool. I am a big fan of Cobalt Wave. To me, it's like, it's what Tetra Drive wishes it was, right?
I'm actually of the different opinion. I was actually not too hot on Cobalt Wave. I thought it was kind of uninteresting design. Just count the number of attacks and then get abilities based on the number of attacks. I think
it's very boring, but I think it's very good.
Okay. I think effect-wise it is good. So, like Cobalt Wave, I think is a good unit in itself. I just think it's boring. So,
yeah,
that might push the Poggers level down a bit. But I will actually rebuttal you on the point of Valeria here. Is that Valeria makes your Glory Maelstrom turns better because you now have 4 more extra attackers that reach over 28, which means that your opponent can't guard anymore unless they're still running those 20k heal triggers. So I think because of that, Valeria is still kind of good. So that's why I'm down to like kind of have Maelstrom Glory and Aqua Force support sitting right here. Maelstrom Glory, my Poggies, your Poggies up here.
Yeah, I think Cobalt Wave is not uninteresting enough that it pushes Maelstrom below the top of the chart. I still think it's at the very top of the Poggers level.
Mm-hmm.
But I also think that it's not good enough to push Maelstrom onto the right-hand side of the y-axis, unfortunately.
Okay, I think I would definitely agree with that. Yeah, because
yeah.
In the end of it all, until Pursuit Assault comes to English, the best Aqua Force deck will still be Maelstrom because of Glory. So even with Cobalt Wave coming out, I think the deck will still be Maelstrom supported. So because Cobalt Wave is not better than what we currently have, I don't think we can put it on the right side of Stonks. Therefore, we can push it very close because Cobalt Wave is a very strong card. We can put it very high up because Maelstrom Reverse is a very cool card. But I think that's as far as it'll go.
Yeah, the powers combined just don't get there, unfortunately. So moving next on is Mega Colony. Now, I don't really have much to say because I don't really like. Every time the word Mega Colony comes up, my brain, I just I leave the group chat. So like Master Beetle, when I first translated, I was like, this seems kind of garbage. And then I translated Brilliant Bliss, and I was like, holy shit, Brilliant Blister is cracked. So I think there's one of those cases where even though Master Beetle is like the face of the card, I think realistically all of Mega Colony clan support boils down to just Brilliant Blister.
Yeah, I think just from Brilliant Blister, period, existing in this clan support for Mega Colony, I'm willing to push it all the way to the right on Stonks. With how many different Mordred clones there are, being like Grand Blues, Night Rose, being able to remake the Skull Dragons, and just like so many ways to get 5 attacks out, just having Brilliant Blister be able to just stop an attack. It is an extra PG in your deck for a rearguard attack, when you think about it that way. Brilliant Blister is just cracked out of its mind.
Yeah, I think for sure, like, it's relevant in Premium, it's relevant in V, there's just like... It's one of those cards that you think like, you know, I'm not sure how good, you know, I'm not sure why I would play this as a 4 of, and then you actually get to resolve its effect and you're like, holy shit, why can't I play 5 copies? So yeah, I think for sure, like, you know, it definitely belongs on the right-hand side of the chart. Like, I don't know how excited you are about the rest of it, but, you know, like, to me, it's quite far down the excitement level, because when I think, like, key Mega Colony cards, I don't think Master Beetle. I think, like, you know, Gridora, Giraffe, Cyclomatooth, Spark Hercules, a Vectra Zeus, like, you know, these actual cool cards, not Master Beetle, who was just like some limit break do nothing from 2012.
Yeah, so my excitement on seeing Master Beetle, like, now it might be a surprise to a lot of people, but I do enjoy playing Mega Colony a lot. So just by seeing the art of Master Beetle, I was a bit excited. I actually do hear that people would think Master Beetle is like very strong because of its effect to kind of stop your opponent from playing their game, otherwise to give you drive checks. But in the current format, there's like so many ways to like make your board disappear that you can still aggress your opponent without really committing stuff to the board. Now, obviously, against other matchups that can't do that, sure, Master Beetle shows up there. But at that point, why not play something that has multi-attack in Gridora? So because of that, after seeing the effect reveal, I was less excited. I'm not too big on machining outside of Spark Hercules, just with how cool Spark Hercules looks. I think in the end, we can put it somewhere along the right side here just because of Brilliant Blister. And I think after all said and done, I'm willing to put it a bit down here on the Sadge side.
Yeah, like, you know, like, I'm willing to go close to the line because, again, Brilliant Blister was also very relevant in G as well. So it's like, oh, you know, they retrained this old amazing card and they made it almost as good as the old version. So yeah, I think that's a good place.
Alright, I like this place as well. Alright, moving on. Angel, Feather, Ramiel Reverse, and Celestial support. So I'm instantly going to push it up all the way to Poggers again. Y'all know me, I love my tan girls, and Ramiel definitely does fit that fancy for me. But also just because I wanted to try Angel Feathers that wasn't Gabrielle focused. Unfortunately, I don't think there's too much applications in Premium for Ramiel Reverse, nor the Celestial support. But the Celestial support period, like ignoring Ramiel Reverse, the Celestial support period in Danielle and Narelle, those cards are really good for just base Ramiel. So like you could even just play base Ramiel, get the 2 new cards in, and you'd have a really functioning Celestial support. Now, I still don't think it'll be better than Gabrielle just because of the nature of the game at the moment in the V format, but it's definitely a good push in the right direction should any huge ban list happen, which could just turn this into the next big contender for our Angel Feathers.
Yeah, I mean, I'm also a big fan of Angel Feather as well, but I think I'm going to need to push you down a bit because regarding the grade 2s and the grade 1s, they're great, sure. You know, they work very well with base Ramiel and so on and so forth. But as you said, again, like, it's just not better than Gavrel. Like, it's not enough to make me want to build and play the deck. Like, I'll probably pick it up because I picked up all of the Angel support from Clan Selection 1 and 2. You know, so, like, I'll have the deck to play with. I just don't see, like, it doing anything. Like, for example, right, like, let's look at Ramiel Reverse. It's like your opponent can counterblast 2, and if they don't, you get the Basicel effect.
Yeah.
None of the Celestial pieces force your opponent to counterblast. So, like, there's no way of, like, saying, okay, well, you know, like, there's no way of denying your opponent that choice. And it's like, well, that's kind of pointless. And if you play stuff like Zayn, you know, stuff like the other Angel Feather cards that put your opponent's rear guards to damage and then they heal one, that actually countercharges them and it enables that choice. And it's like, to a point, you kind of wanted to play those cards in Celestials as removal for the control nature of Celestials to begin with. So yeah, to me, it's just like, it's cool. It just feels like they just put together a bunch of random Angel Feather words and just slapped them onto a card without really thinking about it. That's my problem. And then the reason I'm not as Poggers is because, yes, I also like Ramiel Reverse's original art, and I unfortunately believe that this new art is not as nice as the original's art. So it's really nice, but it's not nice enough. Like, you know, seeing that under cleavage is a nice plus. Like, you know, she's a bit more skimpily dressed compared to the original Ramiel Reverse, but the original Ramiel Reverse's artwork, when I look at it, I was like, oh, that's a card like I want to play, no matter how bad it is. Whereas with new Ramiel Reverse, I actually had to read it, so yeah, it's good, but it's not that good.
Okay. I do think I have to agree. What dismays me about Ramiel Reverse actually is the way that she's worded, and just like the fact that like her ability to force your opponent to counterblast too. It seems like a deck, or it seems like a card that bullies decks that would have lost anyways. Decks that don't have access to countercharge. Decks that don't have good resource management. They would just get bullied by Ramiel Reverse, in which case you would probably win on base Ramiel anyways. So, like I said, because of the two new cards making base Ramiel good, I'm hovering onto this side of it. Ramiel Reverse herself on this side. My Poggers up here, your Poggers down here. Why don't we settle in the middle around here?
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Alrighty.
I really wanted it to be higher. It's just, to me, it just feels like they designed each and every individual Angel Feather card with no context for the rest of the clan or the deck. That's I think the baseline of what holds it back. But yeah, next up is Raging Fall Reverse and the rest of the Revenger support. Now, Revenge has always been my least favorite part of Shadow Paladin, and I say this as someone who actually likes Shadow Paladin. Like, to me, Revenge was just a little bit too... It's just a little bit too hot topic for me. So, like, and then Raging Fall Reverse is literally like red eyeliner. So, you know, come on, right? Like I get that reverse things and units are cool, and I get that Raging Form is cool, but when you put them together, it's a little bit too much of a good thing, right? Like imagine Avenged Sevenfold doing a cover of Linkin Park, right? Two really good bands, but you know that would sound garbage. You know it would sound garbage, right?
Oh, so when I don't like that.
When I saw Raging Fall Reverse, I was like, nah, like this is too much, Chief. Like we went too far on the edginess. Like, you know, I didn't ask us to hire Shadow the Hedgehog for the development team, so my excitement was quite low. But then I thought about like what it could do, and I was like, okay, there's potential. There's potential. So I was willing to give it a chance. And when the card came out, at first everyone's like, wow, this card sucks, because, you know, like it has more costs on it than an NFT. Like, I'm surprised that Raging Reverse's art isn't a QR code. Thanks for the joke, Noman. So, you know, it's when you first look at it, it feels like it's on the very far left of the chart. But then you realize, well, wait, it's just another Ethics Reverse, which is just a slightly bad Overlord. So, it's not special, but I don't think it's terrible. I feel like I want to put it somewhere like slap bang in the middle. Like,
okay.
I have no strong comments, and you know, the other big thing is we had to bear in mind the two Revenger supports, Rukia and Rikea. They're actually decent cards. They're not amazing cards. Like, you know, Rikea's not Maka, and Rukia isn't Claudus. I think the grade one is maybe Doran. I don't know, whichever one is the grade one. Like, you know, neither piece is better than existing Revengers already, but they're more Revenger names that I'm not unhappy to run. Unlike, say, Colony Maker, where, yes, it has the archetype name, but I would rather bite my foot off than put this in my deck. So, we have to give them some credit for being actually playable.
Okay, so I'm gonna actually interject here, and I fucking love edgy shit. I fucking love Jack Atlas. I love Kaiba. So every time I see some kind of like Deuter antagonist or Deuter protagonist character get corrupted I'm just like, oh, that's gotta be so hype. So my Poggers was up here already. So we can meet in the middle here. We can meet in the middle there.
Alright.
I initially, now, I think I vocalize this a lot, but I was actually initially happy on EBR. I was also initially happy on Raging Fall Dragon Reverse as well. So I thought the effects in of themselves were like good because of the fact that you could use RFDR without Counterblast. And it became somewhat similar to a Dauntless Drive Dragon on the first turn.
Yeah, like at the end of the day, you're either a bad SGD or you're a bad EBR. Like,
yeah,
and you know that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just that being a bad version of two already not great decks isn't exactly anything isn't anything to write home about. So like, I'm okay with the card being good.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying, like, you know, it's like I would be surprised to see it at like a table in a tournament. That's the only caveat.
Now, I wasn't too hot on the new Grade 2, Grade 1. I wasn't a fan that they were very incredibly ride line specific. Like, you had to ride into the Grade 1 to get its first effect. Its second effect was Soul Blast 2, recurable mind you, but Soul Blast 2, recurable in a deck that actually looks to sacrifice off the rear guards very frequently, doesn't mean too much. Might as well just read on play Soul Blast 2, call it Grade 2. Then the Grade 2 as well, also needing to be rode upon, so something you need to ride as well. Also needs to be rode upon by Revenger. So because of those two being so xenophobic to the Revenger name, you're immediately locked out of the Nemain, the Bendy, the Domput, the Blaster Dark. And I think those two being so good for Revenger Peer, but then pulling away from the ride skip that the current Raging Form deck has, by including the Blaster Darks and thus the Mortar Revengers, kind of pushes me here.
No, like, it's... You're trading the speed and the high roll of the Superior Ride for a bit more consistency and the ability to actually play the game without needing to just, you know, sit back and pray. So I would put it, like, just barely on the right side of this line.
Okay, somewhere here-ish? Like, right in between the two other?
Yeah, I think that's fair. That's fair.
I think that's fair. Let's leave it there. Alright. And then after that slurry of reverse units, we've got Grand Ezel Scissors to cut the reverse rings. Now, honestly, when I saw Grand Ezel Scissors, I was kind of super excited, but like not as much as as the reverse units, because I'm more excited for Corruption than I am for Uncorruption. Don't quote me on that. But Grand Ezel Scissors, I was never big on Ezel, like even throughout my Vanguard career. So seeing Grand Ezel Scissors, cool. That's kind of Poggers, but I'm not soy facing is the thing.
Yeah.
As for the effects, and as for the strength of the 3 cards, I'm putting Platina here, but the 2 new supports for like the 2 new cards, specifically White Lion in Ezel. That card is like over here. Now, unfortunately, it does have to hit specifically the Vanguard, so it's not as much as a bully as Demolition Dragon is. But it's still on hit pressure for an in-archetype Craven Claw. Sometimes that's all you need for a deck in V to be somewhat playable. So I'm willing to put my Gold Paladin support for Clan Collection 3 and 4 right about here.
Alright, I'm going to push it a bit further up because, so story time. It's 2016, Zistro's been playing competitive Vanguard for just over a year, and the Gold Paladin start decks come out in English. You know, there's $5 things that come with 2 Gurgus and 2 Stride Fodders, you know, really good purchases. And so he spent £10 on these 2 start decks, like, wow, I have like 80% of a competitive Gold Paladin deck already. What else can I shove in here to make it decent? Oh, let's look at some backup grade 3s. I go through every single grade 3 in Gold Paladin on Cardfight area, realize that all of them suck, except for Ezel Scissors. I'm like, okay, great, I can buy 2 copies of Ezel Scissors and the, 4 copies of Quill and the deck is complete. Let's go buy 2 Ezel Scissors. Go online, nowhere has them in stock. Go on another website, nowhere has them in stock. Go, fine, I guess I have to import from the US. Go to TCG Player. All the ones that are shipping to the UK from the US cost like $20. I'm like, no, fuck that. I mean, like, okay, I don't say that. I say like, oh, I can't be able to pay $40 for a playset of Ezel scissors. Put them in the cart anyway. Click optimize, expecting nothing. Be like, look, it's still gonna be $40, whatever. Comes back, says, we found your cart for $20. I'm like, all right, I'll buy it. Buy the two Ezel scissors for $10 a piece. They get here, and I realize I bought a pair of SP Ezel scissors for $10 each.
Poggers?
So from that point,
Wait,
I was like,
Stonks? Wait, actually Stonks? Like for a
actual
literal
Stonks.
actual
Stonks.
Stonks.
So because of that, like, I was never excited about like the original Ezel stuff, like Blonde, Raven, Platinum. Like, I only played those Ezels because they were good in Premium. Like, you know, I only bought Gold Paladin because it was like at one point the best deck in Premium. But Ezel Scissors, like, I'm always down to play this card because if they do it right, it can just be generically good. Now, Scissors, V Scissors, is not generically good, but it makes the already good Ezels even better. And having actually like tested the deck, I think Scissors is actually really, really, really good. Like, I don't know if it's Duke good, but I think it comes second, a very strong second. Like, I think it's definitely better than Agravain, and I think it's definitely better than post-restriction Gurgit. Like, the fact that you can go on turn 4, 27k, 3 drives, Platinum effect, crit, Sentinel restrict is pretty nuts. Like, and the whole deck, like, you know, it funds itself. Like, you don't have to work very hard. You just have to hit with one White Lion. And yeah, like, White Lion is already on its own, like, Giga Stonks. Like, you compare it to, like, Cravenclaw and Demolition Dragon, which is fair, but actually hitting with White Lion and adding Platina and Raven to hand, and then putting the Blonde from hand into Soul is literally life-changing. Like, actually life-changing. So, I think it should be a little, like, in terms of vertical, it should be between Raging Form and Ramiel, and maybe a little bit more to the left, because it's, you know, at the end of the day, it's Ezel, it's high roll. Like, you know, you either put your dick on the table or you get your dick punched in by your opponent. So again, like, I would not play this at an event, but I would feel very good about playing it.
Alright, you know what? I think I'm down to agree on that. Now, my question for you, Ben, is actually, when you tested your Grand Ezel Scissors, did you play towards the Raven Hair variant or the Platinum variant? Because there's like a few paradigms to how you can play this. One of the ones that I've seen and one of the ones I've tested was basically going for like quadruple Raven Hair, trying to just one-shot your opponent. But then there's also the line where you copy Platinum, you get the extra drive, and then you just multi-attack a lot with a lot of front triggers. So do you prefer the Raven line or the Platinum line?
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
Dude, it's 16 Ezels. I don't know what you want me to say.
Yeah, fair enough.
So now we have Magatsu back onto the reverse train, and now Magatsu is one of those cards that I have a love-hate relationship with, because another story time. It's 2018 Springfest season. I'm testing with a few friends because, you know, we're like playing in Springfest this time, and we settle on Dominate as one of the best decks in the format because Nubatama had just gotten their support. So you have like Dreadmaster, Kujikiri Kongo, Kabuki Kongo, these things, and Magatsu as your grade 3 options. And they're all decent, you know, they're all generate protect markers, which is what you want before you Rene someone to death. But the question was, do you play Kabuki Kongo for its counterblast on your opponent discards a card effect when you go first? Or do you play Magatsu for no plussing, but instead play it just so that you have something to do during your opponent's turn? And at the end of the day, I think we settled on Kabuki Kongo for various reasons. But I was, you know, definitely excited to try out. I was definitely excited to test Magatsu to a bit, but it just wasn't that exciting. And then obviously as Nubatama evolved, we have like Hanzo, we have Jamie Kongo, now we have
Hozan.
Now we have Daihozan. So it's like Magatsu's fallen by the wayside. And I think the problem is, when they revealed Magatsu Reverse, nobody was expecting him to like breathe new life into Nubatama, right? They were like, okay, you know, like, there's no way I'm gonna play this over Daihozan, but let's see what it can do. And I think, unfortunately, the moment it said the words, your rear guards, like, the moment it said your cards with Magatsu in name, I was like, And it's so close to being decent. But I think the problem is, at the end of the day, no matter what you do, Nubatama is always going to be either super broken or super garbage. And unfortunately, I think Magatsu just falls very far on the left end of that. Now, the support, I want to say it's better, but I don't think I can say that with a straight face. Like, again, it's all just more like super dedicated Magatsu support, and it's, you know, you can't polish a turd, unfortunately. So as cool and exciting as it is, I just don't really like... I wanted it to be good. I really wanted it to be good, because I'm bored of, like... You know, I'm bored of Nubatama being the slightly worse version of, like, you know, Hand Shred. And this doesn't change any of that.
I'm willing to actually debate on the fact that because Magatsu Reverse is really good in Premium in a Magatsu-focused deck, I'm sure everyone has already heard about the line where you go into Jakumeso, then you bounce your units, and then you call the 2 Magatsu Reverses from hand, and then you're able to perform 3 drive checks on the Jakumeso, and 2 drive checks on each of the Magatsu Reverses, and if you get an overtrigger, that's fucking Stonks! So I think having this application in Premium is pretty good. What I do like about Magatsu's support, and now including the promo that was like Jado Neko, means that you're able to actually use like Magatsu Storm period, like the base Magatsu Storm, on your turn 3 ride, which means you're able to get your multi-attack on the turn that you ride turn 3. You're not really restricted to any more of that if you didn't ride this turn, etc. bullcrap. So I think because of 2 forms of Jado Neko existing, the new grade 1 being able to push a grade 3 rearguard into Soul, Jado Neko itself being able to act as a grade 3 in Soul and push itself into Soul, just to have that condition for Magatsu to get that turn 3 multi-attack, I think is actually should be on the right hand side of it. As for my excitement levels,
I think that's too high rolly for my tastes.
Still too high rolly, really.
It's still too high rolly. Like, again, like, why would I do that when I can just Rinne Daihozan people? Like, it's way less effort for just as good a payoff. And I think that's my problem.
Okay.
I don't know if I can feel good about putting Magatsu on the right-hand side of this graph.
So is this like basically in context of Premium, you're not happy about having Magatsu
in the context of everything, I just don't think it does enough. I just don't think it does enough.
Even in V Premium format, Magatsu Reverse, the new grade 2, the new grade 1, you don't think it's better than what Shiranui or what Daihozan can do at the moment?
I don't think so.
Okay, interesting.
I'm willing to be proved wrong on this, but it's just... It feels like Hanzo, right? It's like really cool on paper, a lot of moving pieces, and then you just don't go anywhere.
Okay. So your Stonks value is
not that far, like
not that far here-ish?
Maybe around like just slightly to the left of Referee of Bermuda.
Alright, so here-ish.
Yeah, that sort of ballpark.
Okay. I was thinking here. So why don't we meet in the middle and put it just to the left of center then?
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Because in the end, Nubatama didn't need a new boss unit. Nubatama needed good grade 2s.
Yeah.
That wasn't Magatsu Gale.
Yeah.
And I think that until Nubatama gets that, I am also reluctant to put Nubatama V on this side of the chart. So I'm willing to have it tip over because I personally think that Magatsu Reverse and the new support does make Magatsu a viable strategy in V. I think the Magatsu Reverse plus the Jakumeso interaction in Premium is also neat as balls.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
But power-wise, I think, like you said, Daihozan Rinne probably gets the job done and better.
Yeah. I will push it a little bit higher up the vertical side for one reason and one reason only, which is, in context, this was the last reverse to be revealed for a Protect clan. Because we had Grand Blue, then Angels, then Magatsu. And we'll get onto Grand Blue in a bit, but basically this was the last chance for Link Joker to get a good Protect grade 3. And so that's why I was a lot more excited for it. And then it ended up not delivering that good Protect grade 3 we needed for Link Joker, so... You know.
I actually don't have any, like, strong feelings about my excitement on Magatsu. I was never a Magatsu player. I thought the ride line was cool. I liked the design of them. But, like, even when Magatsu Reverse got revealed, even, like, when it got hinted at, I was just like, okay, Daihozan is hotter. Alright, going into the next clan, Tachikaze. So, story time for me now. When I first started Vanguard, one of the people that used to play with me a lot would strictly play Tachikazes. And Tachikaze was not a clan that you'd see a lot around. But at that time, eventually, they got Gluttony Dogma. And Gluttony Dogma, if you guys don't know what Gluttony Dogma is, you guys gonna learn soon. Because this guy's about to terrorize V format, at the very least. And basically, I got my ass clapped so many times, and it was kind of due to his influence that I started picking up Tachikazes as well. So when I saw Raptors, my hype wasn't as amazing. I was hoping for, like, maybe too much of a stretch, but hoping for, like, a Dogma retrain in V. So I wasn't too excited to see Raptors get chosen as, like, the support for Clan Collection. But when the effect got revealed and it was actually Dogma, and I was super excited about that. So I'm not sure where to put this, but definitely around this center cluster here. As for the card effect strength, it's Gluttony Dogma.
Yeah,
now,
I was gonna say, like, you were expecting Dogma and you actually got a Dogma. Like, there's no way it's not on the right-hand side of this chart. Like, for me, I'm kind of in the opposite vein, right? Like, I saw it was Raptor, I was like, oh shit, maybe it's Tachi's where it's finally not, like, maybe finally the cards don't say the word gauge on them. But unfortunately, the cards said the word gauge on them. But they do it in a way that doesn't make me want to kill myself. Like, you know, it's not Gaia, it's not the Gano Blazer. It's actually just, it's just straight up Dogma. Like, it's actually really close to Neberos, and Neberos is a really fun card to resolve. So I'm totally on board with this being like, are we putting this in the top right corner? I think we're putting this in the top right corner.
I would say yes. Except for the fact that you don't get the restand on the first turn. The grade 2 and the grade 1, the grade 2 at least, uses a lot of soul, so it's very finite in what it can do. It is very, if you don't get this, like, huge pop off on this turn, your resources will whittle down. What I can appreciate, though, is that it's not a re-ride. It stays as itself. So any crits you get on the first swing stay on to the next swing, which is bigger and therefore more threatening. And I think that might just shy of onto the right corner. Just shy.
Yeah, okay, that's fair. I'm okay with that.
Speaking of restanding Vanguards that don't re-ride.
Yep. Now this is where the emotions conflict, because, like, I'm into Nova Grappler. Like, I'm into all forms of Nova Grappler.
I'm into Nova Grapplers.
But I was burned by Ethics Buster. Like, beyond the rulings headache, beyond it not being very good, beyond it, you know, wasting perfectly good art from the Zero, like the Zero original art. I wasn't ready to get hurt again quite so soon. And so when I saw Ethics Reverse, I was like, okay, let's see how little this can synergize with Ethics Buster. And it didn't synergize with Ethics Buster. Like, you know, there's no, like, inherent synergy. It's just, okay, you write Ethics Buster, you get an extra attack. And then we sat down to think about it, and we thought, okay, maybe it's not that bad. You know, maybe you just restand twice. That could maybe be worth something, right? And then we tested it, and I was like, okay, this has made up for the sins of Ethics Buster. Ethics Reverse, like, my expectations were rock bottom. Like, I would put it, like, at the very bottom of this chart going into it. But then actually having played the deck, I would put it somewhere between Ezel and Master Beetle. I honestly would. Actually, no, maybe not that high. Maybe left of Ezel.
You would think here. Okay.
Something in that ballpark.
So, I will say I was super excited for Ethics Buster Reverse to get announced, just because, just like you, I'm also a Nova Grappler enthusiast. I fucking love my mechs. We are both Gundam Wing shonen. So I was very excited to see Ethics Buster Reverse. When the effect came out, everyone was at first kind of just thinking, what the fuck? myself included. But then, just like you, I took some time to think about it, realized this is just another Overlord. It is a self-restanding Vanguard. It can actually attack more times than Overlord if the pieces are perfect. I'm actually willing to say this card is good. And I made it publicly announced that I thought Ethics Buster Reverse was good. I'm willing to wear the clown costume if people are still willing to prove me wrong. But I think the Ethics Buster Reverse is good. The new Grade 2 is good. I think the new Grade 1 is good. Like, in a Beast Deity deck, the new Grade 1, Raw Plus. The new Grade 2, Raw Plus. You're discarding 2 off of Ethics Buster on the ride, on the re-ride. That's a +2 to board. Then on the next turn after, you have the on-hit pressure. Now, unfortunately, yeah, the timing doesn't work in the sense that if that first attack hits, you don't get the Brainy Poppy effects to go off. But it's still mitigating that -2 that you are from discarding onto the board, which then sets up your board for the next turn when you do it onto the Ethics Buster Reverse. Then you got the Tortoises, 4 attacks from the Vanguard, you find a crit on the first one, your opponent's shitting their pants. Like, I'm willing to say, I'm willing to put it, like, right here.
Yeah, I think based on the fact that it was just an Overgrapper alone, I'm willing to put it over Ezel. It's just that weird paradigm shift of, like, going, like... Because remember, again, context, this is one of the first reverses revealed. And so it really set the stage of, like... It set the tone of, like, going, these kinda suck. And then when you explore a little bit more, like, okay, maybe these don't suck so bad. Like, you know, same with Raging Fall, like, you know... Like, I think EBR and Raging Fall are very much two sides of the same coin. Like, you know, you saw it like, okay, this sucks, and then you play it like, okay, no, it's just Overlord. So, like, like, all the cards have good words on them. I think it's just a case of we didn't see at the very beginning how it all came together, but, you know, I'm willing to give it its dues. So yeah, I think that's a fair place.
Alright, I'll give this one to you. I know you're not too hot on it.
Yeah, it is my boy, so... You know, you guys know, like, the little icons we have. Nebula Lord is mine, because it's my second favorite Link Joker card of all time behind Schwarzschild. Because Schwarzschild was too hard to draw, unfortunately. Like, the sad thing is that Nebula Lord didn't really make much splash when it first came out. Like, by that point, you know, it was only around for like a few months, and then we had Chaos Breaker to ruin everyone's day. And I think everyone kind of expected, right? It's going to be, okay, it's Nebula Lord. It has to pump up your front row based on the number of lock cards. But the way it did it was just... boring. Like, and my problem is that, again, just like with a lot of the other clans we've seen so far, what Link Joker needs isn't more boss units. It needs better grade 2s and grade 1s. So, I can't imagine a world where I want Nebula Lord on my Vanguard circle over Chaos. And the weird thing is, like, it just there's no synergy. Like, there's just no synergy with Chaos. Like, what are you gonna do? Play Chaos as just a random 23k beat stick on the rearguard circle? No, you want to draw cards with Chaos and retire opponents' markers. Like, there's nothing this does other than lol triple drive. Like, whatever. Like, we've never had a problem with power, right? Like, you have triggers, you stack force markers with Chaos. You already have Zirconium, which is a 20k beat stick. You have Infinite Zero, which is a 28k beat stick most of the time. Like, giving your rearguards power doesn't matter at all. It's actually converting those pluses into a game-winning effect that matters. And so, Nebula Lord himself was absolutely garbage. And I was like, okay, it's fine. Maybe the support can save us. Maybe Radon and Neon can save us. And when I read the fact that these things call themselves out of the drop zone, I was like, yes, this is it. Like, we're all on firing on all cylinders. Let's go. And then I read the rest of the effect and I was like, no. Like, they made a perfectly good card, and then they just cut their legs off. Like, why would you do this? Like, Neon I can kind of forgive, because that's always good. Like, it's always going to be good. And, you know, like, it just means that you have to cut barrel roll from Chaos in exchange for a repeatable 10k shield, but that's fine. Like, that's fine. But Radon, I cannot forgive Radon. Like, it's not even optional. It's not even optional. Like, ugh. So, and again, like, we already have ways of forcing damage through. We didn't need We didn't need a battle door effect. We needed like more plus. We needed something to like get more locks. None of them do anything. Like, how can you go from Palladium to this? Like, to me, this is a top left moment. It's a super top left.
Super top left for you. Okay.
Yeah.
It is very left leaning for me as well. I was also excited for Nebula Lore because my best friend's his favorite unit finally became a unit in V premium format. I was super excited for it as well. Radon, ratio. Neon, no. The fact that Radon is not optional was probably its defining downfall. I think being able to call itself out of drop, perfect. I think if it didn't even have that second effect for the battle door, Radon would have been fine. But because it has that battle door effect, which is mandatory and then binds itself after, Radon sucks. It's not a card that you can keep on the board to keep attacking your opponent with. It's literally just like a card that disappears once it attacks. Neon as well. I'm not too hot on Neon as well. The Counterblast in Link Joker is better used on Chaos, is better used on Zirconium, probably better on Palladium as well. I'd rather save my Counterblast for that rather than Neon. Now, I will rebuttal the fact that I think low counts of Nebula Lord Dragon as a rewrite to try and finish out the game is a valid option, because after you've like ripped out your opponent's hand, after you like farmed their force markers, just getting your units to unguardable amounts of power with that triple drive, find that extra crit, just that little bit higher chance. You already have Zirconium for the base to crit for your Starvader Vanguard, so you don't even have to be on Chaos to get it. Chaos then, like you said, becoming that 23k beat stick on the side, 28k if your opponent has one locked Vanguard, 33k, not to mention force markers. I think there's some valid options in just having Nebula Lord as a rewrite to finish out games. But the grade 1 and grade 2 were so shitty that I don't think it can even push Nebula Lord off the right.
Like,
and
the only time Nebula Lord is good is when you write it over Infinite Zero. And you don't ever want Infinite Zero in your Vanguard circle. And it's like, cool, I can discard Neon for Infinite Zero's cost and get it back again. But it's like, but no, like, right? But then you're not getting the free 10k shield that you're supposed to be getting. Like, it's just like, for every step forward, it's a step and a half back. Like, and again, like, I know what you're saying about, you know, maybe an extra plus 10k to your front row, but I just don't see myself ever riding Nebula Lord over Chaos. Like, I just don't think those two belong in the same deck at all. And like, you know, that's you're saying like, okay, let's play a deck where the only grade 3s are 4 Infinite Zero and 4 Nebula Lord. You know, let's huff the copium real hard.
Okay.
Like, okay, so cool. Let's like huff the copium. Ride Nebula Lord over Infinite Zero. Huff some more copium. Discard Radon. Huff some more copium. Call out Radon. Huff some more copium. Call down Zirconium so your Nebula Lord has a crit. Like, it. What have I accomplished? Right? Like, the only reason, like, I can play Force 2 in a deck that already has Zirconium. Just... I'm just gonna say this. Bushiroad, you have one more chance. Oh, so you have 2 more chances. We have Glendios and we have Blaster Joker. Don't fuck this up.
Oh, don't fuck up Blaster Joker. Do not fuck up Blaster Joker. Alright. Jewel Knights.
Going on from my main to your main. Let's
do
the difference of night and day, shall we?
All right, actually, the night and day. I'm just pushing it all the way there. I'm just pushing it all the way. Like, I'm willing to say ignoring Salome, the new grade 2 Sybil, the new grade 1 Eunice. Those cards are so fucking good that those 2 cards, ignoring what Salome does, pushes the Royal Paladin support all the way to the right here. You could play that in Braid. You can play that in Altmile. You can play that in Thingsaver Dragon. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge. You can play it in Jewel Knights as intended. You could probably play this in fucking Sanctuary Guard and still get the shit going good as well. Those 2 cards with the entire Jewel Knight package, fucking insane. And Salome herself is also really strong. She's really strong going into your opponent's grade 3. no one hates a restanding Vanguard. Same concept as usual. Your Vanguard restands is not a re-ride. You keep the crits from the first swing. It just becomes that much more threatening. But then you think about it in the premium context as well. You get to Crystal Luster. You have 5 attacks with the guard restrict now because Salome resets your board. Salome gives Crystal Luster 10k and a drive, so you're going 4-4. That's a lot of fucking drive checks. Holy shit.
I'm personally just not a huge fan of Royal Paladin, just because of personal bias. But I'm not going to let that push it down, so yeah, I think it's fine. Like, it's just really good everywhere. Like, I'm fine with it being in the top right, just because everyone else I know loves Jewel Knights as well. So moving up next, we have Ammon, and, you know, Among Us jokes aside, it was one of those cards that, like, has a lot of nostalgia value. It's one of the first original boss units ever, you know, like, very iconic. But I don't really care for DI. You know, Tony owns the deck, but he also really doesn't actually care for it either, despite what he says.
Oh fuck, what the hell?
DI is just kind of boring, right? Like, no one really likes DI, and the people that do just have problems, so...
Sorry, Bond.
Like, it's just... There wasn't really much, like, you can do in DI, right? Again, like, DI is another one of those clans where it's either mega busted or mega lame. There's no in between.
Ragey.
And I think everyone was ready for the Ammon to be mega lame, and despite that, it's actually not mega lame. Like, it's not exciting, but it's not terrible. Like, you know, it does what old Ammon does. It becomes, you know, catastrophically chonky, which can sometimes win games if your opponent runs out of PGs. And the support is actually really, really good. Like, the Grade 2 in particular, being a non-costed Soul Charge 2, wild. Absolutely wild. So, in a vacuum, on its own, I would actually put Ammon, like, you know, somewhere in the middle right area, just because, you know, like, it all works, it's new, like, you know, it's generically decent DI cards. However, we live in a world where there are a non-zero number of cards that are A, relevant and significant in the metagame, and B, have the text Grade 3 in Soul. And unfortunately, Ammon letting your opponent Eugene's branch you, I think is what pushes it very, very far onto the left-hand side. It was really close to being good, and I didn't mind it being good or bad either way. But, you know, please play Ammon into me while I'm playing Luard. I would love to have crit on all my Rayguards on Grade 3, on turn 3. I welcome it. Like, as someone who opens Drag Driver in his opening hand every single game, yes, give me that Grade 3 insult. So that's all I'm saying.
Alright, so yes, I do play DI, but I play DI for the hot vampire boys. Ammon does not fulfill that fetish for me, so I was not super excited for Ammon, but I do respect Ammon as a character in the DI universe, being like the original sin, so to speak. But he's not Sharot, he's not hot, so Ammon does not get the Poggers from me, but he doesn't get the Sadges as well. So, just like Ben, probably somewhere around the center. Now, like we did say, and just to repeat what Ben said, the Grade 1 and Grade 2 support being non-costed Soul Charge in a deck like DI, where your opponent is like almost everyone in the world now knows to pass their first attack against DI, because giving them that first counterblast for Emblem Master is game losing for you. Having Fu Jinlin and Ron Jinlin now be costless ways of getting Soul still is only a positive for DI. But just like what Ben said, because of the existence of those cards that ask for specific grades in Soul, you're helping your opponent skip turns, essentially. You're letting your opponent skip their first ride to go into their second ride and already have a Grade 3 in Soul. It might hurt the deck more than expected, but when you go first as Ammon, and when you ride into Ammon, you just delinquent duel with them. Ammon does...
Getting the Pure Light skill on Grade 3 is really, really, really cool. I just don't know if it makes up for the fact that you've basically, like, you know, in a way, like forcing your opponent to soul charge from hand should be like disruption. It should be like, you know, a big road, like not interruption, but you know, it should massively inconvenience your opponent. But it doesn't, right? Like it's just cool. I soul charge one and maybe I draw a card, or like, you know, like I'm forced to soul charge one and replace it. Like it just, or like, you know, I choose not to lose my hand and give you an extra soul. Like in the grand scheme of things, it's not backbreaking. And I think the problem is that DI needed something backbreaking.
I'm still willing to put the entirety of the new DI support a bit closer to the center line, because
I'm willing to put it slap bang in the middle. I'm
slap
totally
bang in the
okay
middle.
with it
You know
being
what?
slap bang in the middle.
Yeah, fuck it. I'm on straight in the middle, where
Yeah.
where he belongs. Not sussy at all.
Yeah.
All right.
It's just, you know, like it's a sort of card that I can imagine would dominate table 500. Like that deck would dominate table 500, which is cool. It's just, you know, when I look at like Shahara, or I look at even not Rage, but like, you know, like NLK, like classic modes, like NLK or whatever. It's just like, yeah, I don't have to like play the game with my opponent. I just play my game. That's all that matters.
And I think that is something important in a lot of like these new clan collection cards, is how much opponent interaction do you really need? Because in the end, you're trying to solitaire better than your opponent can solitaire. And the unfortunate part is, although the new Ammon support does help you solitaire a bit more, you're at the same time you're offering up your opponent a chance to solitaire a bit more as well. Now we've got Gear Chronicle, Steam Maidens. Now, I'm actually not super high on Steam Maiden. I only have one Steam Maiden in my heart, and that's Ururu. I'm not sure if you're the same there, but apart from Ururu, I don't care too much about Melon. Like, it'll give me nightmares.
I'm pretty hard top right here, because
You're hard top right?
I mean, again, I hate Gear Chronicle in the same way that I hate Royal Paladin. Like, they are my two least favorite clans, but at least it's not a fucking dragon. So it immediately gets points for not being a fucking dragon. Like, and it's also something new, right? It's not just like more call from the deck, write a grade 4 from the deck. Like, it tried to do something new, which Gear Chronicle doesn't do very often, and doesn't do successfully very often either. Like, you remember when ZTB first got introduced? I sure do. Remember when Gear Chronicle and Veeg first got introduced? I sure do. Like, you know, Gear Chronicle has always been good at... It's always been very bad at pushing boundaries, but it's always been very good at refining boundaries. So for a Gear Chronicle support to finally be the one to push the boundaries, I was like, yes, I'm totally down for this. And it actually is effective. Like, you know, you build the deck completely differently to how you would any other Gear Chronicle deck, and it functions. It's interesting, it does combos, it can actually win games, unlike the majority of what we've discussed here so far. Like, yeah, I'm super sold on Steam Maidens. I'm super sold.
I'm actually not as sold as you are on Steam Maidens. I think they have quite a few flaws, and that is just the number of Steam Maidens that do the thing in the deck. It means that you have to collect more specific pieces all at once to get them into the bind zone first. You need to get them into the drop zone to get them into the bind zone. So instead of something, because the way that I look at Iruru is she's Beatrice, but for Gear Chronicle. She has we have the ghosty jumps in Beatrice's deck going back down from the grade 3 to the grade 2 to the grade 1 to the grade 0. And here we have the 0 going to the 1 to the 2 to the 3 to the 4. And I do like that. I do like how strong it is on paper. Being able to use that force marker 4 times in a turn is like fucking huge value out of that 110k buff. I just don't think there's enough specific Steam Maiden support to push it all the way to the right, but based on its idea, the concept of being able to abuse that one column, use that other column for technology, like the Gear Colossus that battle doors for the turn, or Innervate Dragon to actually build up your bind zone quicker to hopefully actually get all the pieces you need. I think that does help, and I do like that concept of rather than focusing on your Vanguard, which is what like Chrono Jet looks to do, is what Chrono Fang looks to do right now. Focus on your rear guards, and it's a paradigm that Gear Chronicle hasn't explored yet, and I'm down for it. Like, I wasn't super poggies about it. Not as you, but I do respect its potential. I think with, like, one more set of Steam Maiden named cards, similar to the Jewel Knights this time. This was their second wave of Jewel Knight cards, and now they're cracked out of their fucking mind. One more set of Steam Maiden cards. This set is probably going to be fucking cracked out of their minds. Alright. And now we have Cocytus Reverse.
Right, so I mentioned how Gear Chronicle and Royal Paladin were two of my least favorite clans aesthetically and, like, thematically. Grand Blue and Dark Irregulars are two of my least favorite clans mechanically. Like, I fucking hate decks that get rewarded just for playing the game. So I was, like, I wanted Grand Blue to actively be bad. Like, Grand Blue has had it too good for too long. Like, when was the last time Grand Blue was bad? Ever. Like, what? Before G-Series, right? Like, when was the last time Grand Blue sucked dick? It's it's been so long. So I wanted Grand Blue to be shit as hell. And I got my prayers answered. Like, okay, so there's two things to talk about. First is Cocytus, and then the second is the Negrobolt, Negro, like, Ghoul Dragon combo.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Cocytus first. This is another card that's a QR code NFT. Like, it has restriction on your Vanguard, restriction of attacking a grade 3 Vanguard, restriction of first battle, discarding 4 cards, locking 5 stood rear guards. Like, holy shit, do you want my firstborn son while you're at it? Like, I actually couldn't believe reading this card that Grand Blue finally got garbage. And I was so happy to see it. Like, it actually boggles my mind how little Cocytus synergizes with literally anything else in Grand Blue at all. Like, the most I can give it is that if you're playing Premium and for some reason you don't stride and you go into Cocytus, all of your hollow rearguards don't retire themselves at the end of turn. And then that means you can retire 3 of them to get 10k in defensive for 1 battle.
Wow.
Like, God, like, literally get out of here. And, you know, like, originally I was slightly excited because, like, okay, cool, it's a reverse with a protect marker. I can get protect markers in Link Joker. And then it just ended up absolutely sucking donkey dick.
I don't fucking want this at all. Fuck that shit. Holy crap.
So, like, hell yeah.
Yeah, so, like, I'm with you. Like, for, like, Cocytus Reverse, like, even ignoring Negrobolt and, like, the Gold Dragon right now, this card sucks. This card sucks. Like, this card, like, bottom of the barrel. This came from, this card's quality is, like, Mariana's Trench. Like,
I would rather reread Hanakari at chapter 220 than play Negrobolt, than play Cocytus Reverse. That's all I have to say.
Damn, what the fuck?
So now let's look at the other half of the equation. Let's look at Negrobolt. Bind all of the cards from your drop zone.
That's it? That's it! Now I can say, though, that Negrobolt at least has some cool premium interactions because of the existence of Beauty tugging on the sleeve, I believe is the card of the name of the card. Being able to just put all the cards in your bind zone back to your drop, gain fat power. The fact that if you stride over Negrobolt, you're not forced to then bind your stuff on that onto that incoming turn. So you can do like this really cool thing about, I think the play that I thought of was you ride into the Limit Break Night Mist, you stride into Bad Bounty, and from the drop zone you ride into Negro Bolt, and then you make 2 Skull Dragons, you swing the Negrobolt, your drop zone is still thicker than oatmeal, and then you just go to town with the Skull Dragons and Bob's your uncle, then you get PG twice, and you scoop because you lose your bind zone! You lose your drop zone!
Yeah, premium, because you still get the defensive skill of Negrobolt if you stride, like, you know, and if you can get past the binding your drop zone, the other 2 effects from Negrobolt are really cool. Like, you know, they're not amazing, but they're okay. And Ghoul Dragon's pretty good as well. Like, it's very okay. It's very decent. It's not special, but, like, the card only exists because Negrobolt exists. Like, it doesn't do anything like, again, it's hard to do better in Grand Blue between Columbard, between Greed Shade, between Ghost Ship, between like all these fucking other like ridiculously good grade 2s that Grand Blue has, right? And that's one of the reasons I hate the deck. It's just full of good cards. But like, like Ghoul Dragon is nothing special, and it doesn't need to be. The problem is that like it's like getting a golden wheelchair. Like, it's really, really cool, but you'd rather not need the wheelchair in the first place.
I think that's a really good way to put it, yeah. Like,
so,
Grand Blue didn't need anything. Like, honestly, in the V format, what does Grand Blue need? Nothing. They have the entire thing of their, that's what they're missing. They're missing Painful Choice, which they have in Premium. And in Premium, what are they missing? Nothing, because they have Painful Choice now. So,
like, why couldn't these 3 cards have had the word 7 Seas on them? That's all I ask.
Yeah, but fucking like give some love to 7 Seas, like another archetype that has yet to be explored. Now, on the Poggers and Sadge value of it, I'm also like my favorite Grand Blue units. I do like the grade 3s. I do like Night Rose. I do like Beatrice, but because of how prominent they are, like in every format for like days on end now, I wasn't ready to see another like super generic boss unit pop up. So I was happy to see Cocutus reverse, being more focused on the Concutus aspect, because I do love me some Skelly Boys as well. But Cutis reverse, like, despite how poggies I was for Cutis reverse to be announced, the moment I read that effect, I went flaccid. Like no amount of hype can like recover the amount of Sadge Cocutus reverses to me now.
Yeah, I just can't believe that they wasted 84 fucking words on Cocutus reverse, man. Moving on, we have the Great Nature, and Great Nature's an interesting one because we have 2 pieces, 2 things to talk about here. Actually, we have 3 cards, but the third one is an auto top right. So let's look at the 2, which is Polaris and Lox. Now, Polaris, it was again one of the original Great Nature cards, but it was very it wasn't very popular for its time. So I can appreciate people being like, "Who the fuck is a Polaris? What the fuck is a Polaris?" But at the end of the day, it's a bear with pens on its arms. Like, that's kind of cool. And the effect, like the original Polaris, was actually a pretty powerful effect for its time. So there was a lot of poggers going into this. But then we saw the number 70,000, and there were 2 camps of people. There were the people whose gear started telling me like, okay, how do we get to, like, how do we do this? How do we even get to 70,000? And
That's
the other half of people who were just like, let's just fucking give up. And to be fair, 70k is easier than you think. It's easier than you think. So I think the card's not awful, but it is, again, you're like, with a lot of the other clans we've seen so far, you're competing with Isabel, you're competing with Big Belly. That's a tough act to follow. And like, sure, you have a 40k Vanguard that restands, and then a 70k Rearguard that restands. It's like, yeah, but it's not quite enough. That's the only issue. Like, it's real close, I'll give it that, but just not quite enough. But it is still exciting. Like, I'm like, that current position is where I'm happy for Polaris to be. But then we talk about Lox.
Well, before we go into Lox, let me talk about Polaris a bit. All right. I do respect, like, on Polaris there's one effect. The effect is in a vacuum really strong. Give your effect, give your power to another unit. If that power is now at a certain threshold, stand that unit. If it reaches another threshold, stand the bear. This is for 1 counterblast, a Vanguard restand, which in a vacuum is really fucking good. But then you put the numbers in. You put 70k in. And yes, 70k in the deck is actually fairly easy to obtain, except for how much it warps your deck. You're being forced to play shit cards to get a good effect. In which case, why don't you just play good cards, period, and get a good effect without going through loops? So that's why Polaris, the effect itself is really good. Like, you obviously pair this with the Amber's Triangular. You play this a bunch of stuff that gives a bunch of 10k power. But because of how you're warping your deck, I can't, in good faith, put Polaris by itself over on this side. Maybe in the middle somewhere.
Yeah, that's fair. But of course, then we need to talk about Locks.
I love Locks. I love Locks. He's my child. I fucking love Locks.
Like, elephants are cool, but then, you know...
I love elephants.
I can't support... Like, yeah, the card art is Poggers. But again, I think it's another top left situation. Because I can't... Like, Great Nature's supposed to be a university, and yet here they are with one of their professors plagiarizing Dimension Police. Come on, like, where's the academic review board when you need it? You can't have plagiarism in your university here. That's not okay. Like, the problem is that if Lox's text box appeared on a Dimension Police card, there would be no problems, right? We would just turn a blind eye. But this is not a Dimension Police card. This is a Great Nature card. Huh? Like, at no point am I reading, reading these effects do I think, here's a thing I could do with it. Like, when you read Isabel, when you read Big Belly, when you read even Polaris, you're like, oh, I know the existence of this Great Nature card that I can do this with. When I read Locks, it's like, Nikkei Saburo, question mark?
When I read Locks, I see Monkey. I see Culture Gorilla, and that is enough of a payoff for me to play Locks. Now, I'll play Locks online, I'll play Locks in simulators, but I'm sticking with my furry Yif deck in real life. I don't think Locks, I don't think Polaris is better than either Big Belly or Isabel, just like you said. I think Polaris, in practicality, is probably better, but Locks is actually super fun to play, having tested the deck out myself. So, between, like, the three cards, like, because, like, let's not forget the final card.
Cards, we say that for so between Locks and Polaris for now, we're saying that Great Nature's somewhere, like, right in the middle of the top left quadrant, right? Like, somewhere, like, right around there, right?
Okay,
I think that's
sure.
fair. But now we have to talk about the third card, because that third card changes everything.
Yeah, it's Duckbill. It's Duckbill. So your Poggers is already, like, up here. So, Duckbill is already up here. But I want to say the sad part about Duckbill is that... Actually, no.
It's nowhere near as good. It's nowhere near as good as it used to be. Like, half of it effects synergizes with Isabel, and the other half synergizes with Big Belly.
Yeah. And that's a problem. It's stretched thin.
Yeah, the card, like, you want to put the card in both decks, but it's not good enough to go in both decks, because both decks already have better options.
Mm-hmm.
So, as cool as it is, I think Great Nature still remains a top lefter here.
Yeah, I think, so, like, very top left, like, I was very excited to see all the cards. Even after testing them, I'm excited to try all the cards out as well. Locks especially. Big props to Locks, having the name Locks in this set with all the reverse units. Haha, I'm funny, please subscribe. But yeah, Great Nature stays in the top left. And now, Cecilia Reverse. And the other Musketeer support, and whatever that green dude's name was. Master Wisteria? Master Weed? Snoop Dogg? Yeah, first of all, Poggers, Max. I do love me some corruption, just like I always said. You have pure white Lily Musketeer Cecilia now being corrupted by a Link Joker, and now we have Reverse. So that's ultimate Poggies for me as well, and also her fucking facial expression. I think she came out, her reveal was around the same time that Uzaki was an airing anime, so a lot of like similarities was made between like that fucking like Doyagao shit and fucking really good shit. Now, as for her effect, I think it's only a positive. Like in any which way that you put Cecilia Reverse in, just a really strong card. I think both you and I are advocates of using Cecilia just as a restanding Vanguard in the Vera focus deck, but even in the Cecilia focus deck, with like 4 of the original Cecilia, 4 of this Cecilia, you have like a really high roll, but really strong quad Vanguard attack, triple Vanguard attack, and I think that speaks enough. Master Wisteria though, I think it'd be unfair to Cecilia Reverse to actually like consider Master Wisteria. I don't think that card's that amazing. And Augusto, I have yet to really find a use case for him besides turning your back row into back row interceptors and like being able to trade them off for a card. Because I think
I think Augusto is the best card out of the three. I think that card is cracked. Like in both Musketeer builds and just regular Neonectar builds, that card has a lot of relevant text. I think Cecilia is actually like the weakest of the three.
Really?
Like you say, it's cool. Like, you know, it works as a restanding rear guard in Veridex. Like, you know, it's good. Like it is all positive, but it's not like, you know, it's not like windmill slam positive. It's just it's the same reaction I got to seeing Infinite Zero. It's like, oh, this is cool, but you know, I'm not gonna climb fences and like, you know, chase down dogs over this card. It's just okay, and it's actually it's the whole like. This is I think this is the first case where all three cards really put together, like overall has a sum greater than its parts. Like when you look at Neonectar as a whole, as a result of after this set, Neonectar, like both Neonectar decks just become really solid thanks to each individual card putting in some effort here and there. And so I think the overall positioning in the end is correct. But I think the way it gets there is Cecilia's cool, but it's not on its own amazing. But the other cards actually put in a lot of work.
Teach me about Augusto then, because when I was trying to fit Augusto into my deck, I couldn't choose between Sol, which stays 100%, Sylvia, which is a +1 to board, or Ture, which is also a filter 2 +1 to board. And
I would actually cut Sylvia here because
you would cut Sylvia.
I would cut Sylvia because the thing about Augusto is that it's overall neutral because it's lose one, get one, but it's very critically important that it gives you something that the deck doesn't really have much else of, which is recycling and extension. A lot of Musketeer is like check top 4, check top 3, check top 1, like, get like very, very brief pluses and then nothing happens as a result of that. Whereas Augusto, all of his payoff is relevant. Every single piece of payoff.
Okay. I'll definitely test that out then. But, I'm gonna go ahead and take the reins on this one here, and this is the new Witch support. And I'm very excited because I'm also an OTT player. I do love big hands, and OTT does fulfill that niche for me. And I think, in context of just OTT in general, the support is very stonks. It finally gives OTT its first instance of multi-attack. I think OTT, before they got Momo in the stride, never had multi-attack. Outside of stand triggers, of course. But this gives OTT their first instance of in-deck multi-attack, and I think because of just how the way Vanguard is played, multi-attack is how you can win games. So without this, I don't think OTT would ever see any semblance of being in the meta. Now, do I think that it's meta relevant? No, I don't think it is. I think the Witch cards are a bit too weak in a vacuum to hit meta relevance. And despite like it having like multi-attack, there's a lot of flaws here. One of them being that the number of grade 3s you have to run in a deck to keep being able to like have fuel for Yo-Yo for the re-ride. And once again, it's a re-ride. And because it's a re-ride, and because of how OTT has the ability to stack crits onto top before going into the battle phase with the new promo Nini, the crit doesn't really matter because it's not getting doubly used on a restanding Vanguard because you're rewriting from hand. So if Yo-Yo was a way to like discard a grade 3 to restand your Vanguard, cool. But unfortunately it's not, and I think that is one of its major flaws. The other support though, like in pure context of OTT, in pure context of Witches, every card coming out here is good. But in context of V, I don't think I can put it all the way to the right. I'm willing to leave it all the way in the top right quadrant, but probably somewhere around where Gear Chronicle is as well. Now, let's talk about Premium. In the Premium format, Ishishima is for the turn. So you can combine Yo-Yo in a Witch deck with Ishishima to have another attack get guard restricted. Is this better than what we currently have with Calico? No. So therefore, it probably sits where it is right now.
Yeah, like, witches are cool, I'll give them that. But it's like you said, these cards are really, really good for OTT support. But if they were in any other clan, they'd be dog shit. I think that's what's really holding it back. So, yeah, I think, like, that positioning is about right. Maybe a little bit lower, because I think a lot of people are expecting, like, the second wave of Tsukiyomi revival support, or maybe just a bit more, like, deeper into the Magus line that we haven't really seen recently. But I'm okay with witches, like, Jade Witch Tete is drawn by Kito, big fan of his art, so yeah, I'm okay with it being there. So speaking of art, we have Himiko, the Genesis as a whole, because actually, Genesis got to have a lot of support here, because it has 2 boss units and 1 completely separate, relevant support card. So let's quickly talk about the grade 1. Cider's just insane, like, it's good in every single build.
Cider's good in
every single build. Like, Poets, good. Himiko, good.
Yada, good.
Yeah. Like, the only thing it's not good in is Regalia, and that's because of name restrictions.
Yeah.
But even if it had a Regalia name, the effect is good in Regalia. So, like, it's totally okay with that too. But yeah, so let's talk about the boss units here. We've got Himiko Reverse and Yatagarasu. Now, Himiko, I'm actually a huge fan of. Like, I was willing to, like, go out and buy base Himikos to build this deck when it got revealed. Like, card just looks amazing. And then we got the effect. And the effect was really good. Like, the effect wasn't amazing, but it was just good. And I think, like, the problem I have there is that Genesis already has 3 good decks. You have the Fenrir deck, you have the Poets deck, and you have the Regalia deck. And they are all good, but none of them are insane. And Himiko doesn't change that. It just becomes yet another build of Genesis. Which, like, if you're going for the jack of all trades thing, that's fair. But, there's only so many jacks you can draw before it gets a bit boring. And, the effect is unique, sure. But the fact that it's just yet another deck that's like, what does it do? It, plays with your soul and guarantees you trigger effects. It's like, well, we've kind of seen this before, and the only reason to play Himiko Reverse over any other Genesis deck is literally just for that artwork. And the artwork's very, very good.
Pretty good reason if I say so myself.
Yeah. It's just, I don't know if I want to put it, like, on the right side of this chart.
Really?
I just don't know if it's good enough.
So I don't think Himiko Reverse is good enough to be on the right side of the chart. I think Cider and Yatagarasu, though, are good enough to put Genesis as a whole on the right side of the chart.
Yeah,
Cider is just an incredibly strong card for the Genesis clan. Like you said, whatever version of the deck you want to play in Genesis, you're playing Cider. Yatagarasu is something I've tested extensively now, and I think that card is cracked. I think that might be the new paradigm for Genesis to go towards, aside Astral Poets, just because Astral Poets, their tempo is just way too high to, like, even compare at the moment. But I think Yatagarasu, not being restricted to your opponent in a grade 3, not being restricted to having a grade 3, I guess in a sense it is, not being restricted to first attack of the Tournament, not being, like, just very little restrictions. The restrictions are in your deck building, unfortunately, but the payoffs are really strong. Getting that first turn Mordred, getting that first turn Bounce 2, it is similar to Prism in a way that you're able to get that +2 with the 5 attacks on that first turn, but the resources are a bit harder. So, similarly to Prism in strength, but weaker than Prism in resource management, and I think that might be its shortcoming. So because of that, I'm willing to put it top right, but just a bit on the left side of it. But I love the Miko aesthetic of both Himiko Reverse and Yatagarasu, so I want them all the way on the top for Poggers.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. Like, again, like you say, Yatagarasu and Cider it completely eclipses Himiko Reverse, I think, which is sad in its own way, but it's good for Genesis as a whole, so there's no complaining there.
Oy.
Right, Kagura, let's break it down. Okay, I'm gonna like, there's 3 to talk about, so I'm just gonna quick fire them. Dauntless Reverse, garbage. Blazing Flare, cool, but not very good. Lawkeeper, very cool, but also not very good. So, I'm I'm somewhere between Witches and Ramiel here.
Witches and Ramiel. So somewhere here?
Maybe a bit more to the left. But
I'm thinking somewhere on the left. So I think it's something I'll always hark back to on a lot of my videos is that if you're playing Kagero in the V format and you're not playing Overlord, you're kneecapping yourself. Because at the moment, that deck defines Kagero. And if you're trying to be a cheap impersonation of it in the same clan, that you're automatically docked points. And unfortunately, D3R, even after riding over Dauntless Drive, is a cheap impersonation of Overlord that relies on you actually finding the crit triggers as well. Now, to be said, what I do appreciate about the new support in Kagero is specifically Blazing Flare. I think throwing Blazing Flare into any deck just makes that deck really good into certain matchups now. Like, you can play 1 or 2 copies of Blazing Flare, you see your opponent flip over that Shadow Paladin you see that opponent flip over the Shadow Paladin in first Vanguard, you're like, I'm gonna hold this Blazing Flare here until I have 5 soul, and I'm gonna set you back to turn 1 the moment you ride up into the ward. Like, that effect is really strong. We see Chaos not being able to have a payoff for it, not being able to have a payoff for the force marker removal. But Kagero has a payoff in Overlord that they can actually go into Blazing Flare, just go into another Overlord right after because of how tanky they are, because of how much they just like deny your opponent resources. So I think because of that, similarly put here, like I said, I'm not too big on Dauntless Drive Dominate Reverse, unfortunately, because I do fucking love Miwa Taishi as a character. At least I still have my Seal Dragons, but that card was not hot on me. I do like Blazing Flare though, so I am okay with putting it here.
Yeah, it's overall 2 minuses, but 1 really huge plus. Like, Dauntless Reverse is, like, I don't expect to ever see that card hit the table. Same with Lawkeeper, I don't see that card ever hitting a table. But Blazing Flare, like, I don't expect to see Blazing Flare hit the table either, but I wouldn't be surprised at the same time. Like, it's a card that I can see some people playing 1 or 2 of, some people playing 3 or 4 of, and I know that when someone plays Blazing Flare, it's gonna do something, and that's the relevant part. Like, it's not going to be a dead card the way like Lawkeeper is, or the way that Dauntless is. Like, Blazing Flare, when Blazing Flare hits the table, it's gonna be there for a reason, and I think that's very, very relevant. So, yeah, I'm willing to say that, Blazing Flare makes up for the weakness of the other 2, but I think I'm actually gonna push it maybe down the Poggers scale a bit, just at the end there, like, because, it's not an Overlord, so it's just not gonna be very good.
Okay, fair enough. I think we'll have it stand right on that median line there. But then, let's go into the second half of the Dragon Empire Ninja Clan with Murakumo. Hyaki Vogue Reverse. Now, starting off with the Poggers and Sadge part of it, I don't care too much about Hyaki, so I wasn't on this side of it for sure. I was over on here. Now, reading the effect as a whole, I appreciated that it was literally just deck thin by 3 and +3 to board. Temporarily, mind you, +3 to board. Temporarily. And I think just the fact that it's a temporary +3 to board on your turn, I already want to put it onto this side of the bar, but I have yet to test with it. I do know that the ceiling of the deck is not amazing, even if you're able to get like 5 Counterblasts and 5 Hyakis on the board and Counterblast 4 and everything gets 40k. Then you would have been holding your entire Counterblast for that moment in a deck that doesn't have Counter Charge. So if I was to put it on this side, it would be closer to the median here.
For me, I'm actually gonna, for just Hyaki Reverse, I'm scrolling up the page here. Like, Hyaki Reverse is the only Murakumo card I've ever actually liked. Like, way back in the G series. Like, it's in between Maelstrom and Himiko for me. Like, I fucking love Hyaki. Like, that card could have been absolute garbage, and I would still have been like over the moon for it. But it's actually good. Like, it's actually really good. Like I say, the ceiling isn't high, but the floor is really high. Like, it is by far one of the most consistent Murakumo decks. Like, it's not as good as Hyuga, sure, but it does very similar things in a very, very effective manner. And I think that being able to consistently go 22, 22, 22, 22 every single turn for very minimal resources, all the while getting an extra 20k shield to hand, like, because the important thing to remember is that you can re-bot deck the grade 3s that you search for to rebounce all the cards you just called. Like, that's insane value. That's insane value. Like, sure, the resources get stretched really thin. You know, like, if you're playing Million Rat and you're counter-blasting for Million Rat to bounce an extra 10k shield, you can't refund that cost. Or, if you're spending counterblast to, like, plus 10k your board with Khaki Vogue, like, that's only one turn of 32k. But I think it's still, like, it's one of those decks that you give it an inch and it takes a mile sort of thing. So I'm actually, like, super on board with Khaki, like, both as a pure deck, and we haven't even started talking about Khaki and Messiah. Like, holy shit.
Okay, Khaki Messiahs, yes. Shit. I have heard, like, our Brexit Blast Boy has been testing that a lot.
I've also looked into the deck as well.
It looks...
Deck is nuts. Deck is nuts.
The fact that you're able to get fucking, Volcos onto the Axel, so just have more Volcos then. Insane. Nutter butter. Blasting everyone.
I'm already like all in on the Khaki Vogue.
So actually, just because of that premium implication, like I'm willing to push it up just a smidge here. But even in Link Joker, surely... Actually, no. Link Joker Premium right now is so crippled that I think Khaki Vogue Reverse's introduction to the clan already pushes it on this side. Now, let's talk about the two other cards. One of them is Tamamo. That card was support for the Nuha Yoga from the last clan collection. Now, Nuha Yoga is dog shit. I think even with Tamamo, it's just dog shit, but now with, like, white fur. And that's extra gross. So... super not hot on Tamamo. I'm not gonna let Tamamo ruin the rest of the Murukuma cards because the other card we got was Weasel Black. And if Ben is to the moon with hype with the Khaki Vogue Reverse, I'm to the moon with hype with Weasel Black. Because if you guys didn't know, the name Toku originated from Tokusatsu because I fucking love Sentai, I love Kamen Rider, I love Ultraman, I love all that kind of shit. I love all that kind of stuff. So seeing Weasel Black finally get support, being able to like finally finish the entire Weasel squad, my excitement was through the moon. Was the effect good? No! The fuck was shit! The deck is shit! But my god, is it so fun to play. So I'm willing to leave it here because of bias.
No, I want it at the top. I want it at the very top.
Right here. All the way at the top.
Like, maybe overlapping Himiko slightly. It's not that good. Like, say, like, Tamamo's kind of shit, and the Weasels are, at the end of the day, not very good, but, like, I really fucking love Khaki, and you love Weasels, so I think it should, like, if this vertical graph could be any more wider, I think it would be one of the few that is actually at the very, very top. Like if we could...
Okay, hold up. So, okay, you know what?
No, maybe it'll still at the very top. Maybe it'll still at the very top, I think. Yeah.
Alright, yeah, something like that then.
Something like that, yeah. I think
that's I'm down. I'm down for that, because, yeah. Like, despite being such a Timmy deck, oh my god, the Weasels are so fun.
I mean, like, it's the same with Khaki Reverse as well, right? Like I said, the deck is not amazing, but, when it functions, like, you feel very big brain when you're playing that deck. And that's what I like, so...
Alrighty then. Take the leads on this one.
So, moving on, we then have... 17k triple drive printed, 2 crit base printed.
Whoa, Stonks! That's me socks. That has, oh my god, 17k defensive MLB. What?
The funny thing is, it is actually really Stonks.
No, I actually think this card is really good.
The card is really good.
I actually think this card is really good. Like,
I was ready for it to be like, you have to like pull the moon out of your ass and like bake your opponent a cookie to play this deck. It's like, no, you play like. You're just forced to like play like 2 cards that aren't that great, but the rest of the deck you can play normal Narukami cards for the rest of the deck, no problem. Like, it's actually pretty good.
Like, yeah, I have to agree. Now, unfortunately, I'm not as big of a fan as Dungaree as I am for Vanquisher. Like, Vanquisher, I'd be pogging here. Dungaree, I'm not too excited.
But... yeah, I'm also part of the train of like, I'm one of those guys that. I've been around since like the OG days, and you remember like back in the OG days, people were super excited for Dungaree and Dungaree Unlimited. back in like what BT13, BT14 when they were. I don't remember when it was, but like that sort of time frame. Like, and I was never one of those guys. I'm like, cool, it's another fucking red and gold dragon. Big whoop. So yeah, like, but however, I respect those Narukami fans that are really into Dungaree, and I'm happy for them.
Yeah, like, cause I'm willing to actually like put my cock on the table here and say that this card is like insane. The fact that it shuffles back any 3 cards, then I'm because I'm gonna quickly harken back to the Weasels here. Shuffle back for normal units. Why normal units?
Because all of the Weasels are normal units, obviously.
Why? But then Dungaree gets to shuffle back any 3. Yo, did you want infinite heal triggers? Did you want infinite triggers in your deck? Because Dungaree does that. Like, this has so much game longevity. Being on that 70k base Vanguard means your guards are 5k more effective.
I will say that you'd be surprised at how little you return triggers. Because one of the big things about this deck is that you will often be returning your cards that bind things just to keep your engine going. So it's actually not as insane as you think it is. Like, I've tested the deck like 2 or 3 games. It's very fun, and it definitely feels like you're cooking with gas. And I do still think it belongs in the far right hand side of the graph. But it's not like, I don't think it's going to overtake Eradicators in Premium, and I don't think it's going to overtake Vanquisher in V.
I think I agree with you there. So, yeah, even in Premium, I think the only applications for Dungaree is being a 17k base. Being a 17k base, so you have an extra 5k on your Vanguard, then an extra 5k on your defensive.
Then you're not striding Stunburst.
Then you're not striding Stunburst, which is a
kind
big
of sad.
L. Hopefully Premium Collection.
Of all the Narukami strides, we still don't have a Dungaree stride. We have a Gauntlet Buster stride, we have a Descendant stride, but no Dungaree stride.
Hopefully Chronicle. Sussy. But yeah.
Yeah. It's cool, but we're not excited about it.
Yeah, it's like good, but I'm not over the moon about it. I think that's the best way to put it.
Yeah.
Now, something I was over the moon about was Original Saber Zero. Now, when you think of DP, you're obviously thinking big fucking numbers, right? And for Original Saber Zero, just like fucking come out here and just say 0. I thought that was super cool. So I was super excited about it. Now, unfortunately, Original Saber Zero himself, good on the offensive, decent on the offensive, garbage on the defensive. And in a format like V, so fast, multi-attacks out the wazoo, you being on a 0k, on a 0 power Vanguard, similarly to how Dungaree was able to make his guards more effective, you've made your guards less effective.
If it wasn't once per turn, it'd be nuts.
If it wasn't once per turn, it'd be nuts. Exactly. But it is. And that's what's so sad about it. Now, the Grade 1. The Grade 1, however, Grade 1 is really good. It is generic. You can play it into any DP deck and it will have relevant effects. It is a 10k on the board. It's a 10k shield on the board. It's a 25k shield on the board if you're on 0. But it also lets you hand fix whatever Grade 3 you want. The Grade 2 as well, Eternity Floater. That card is fucking insane. Like, it reads very vanilla, but that card is insane. Being able to turn yourself from a ride target to a 15k attacker every turn, because every turn in DP, you are rewriting. Brad Black, just riding from hand, calling Grade 3s down. It's always going to be 15k, and when you're done with it, just trade it off for a new card in hand. So, Eternity Floater, best card of the 3. The Grade 1, middle card, 0, max Poggers, but not very amazing. I'm willing to put it Poggers, but smack dab in the middle.
For me, it's a bit weird because I was never into like the non-robot aesthetic of DP. Like, they existed, and I didn't hate them, but like it just wasn't interesting. And like this, especially Zero's original game plan of like this minus power, like I respected it as something different than just like, big number, but I was never on board with how they did it. I mean, there was no real payoff. Like, it was just, in a way, like it was just power to your board in a slightly different way. Like, And especially like in the current day and age, now that we've seen other effects, to me it's just like, why would I play this when I can play deleters? Like it's all the same stuff. Like, so it's a little bit lower for me. And I think the problem is that yes, so grade 2 and the grade 1 are really, really great, but again, like, I don't see them like, I don't see it replacing Twin Order, I don't see it replacing Die Prop, I don't see it replacing Geld Sludge, and both existing DP decks are very, very tight on space as it is. Robos because they need to play shit tons of grade 3s, and Zeals because they need to play the full alien ride lines. So it's very similar to Magatsu, where it's just like, it's good, but it's just not good enough to like dethrone anything. And I think it's just gonna be pushed like maybe like slightly more bottom left, just a little bit better than Magatsu in both aspects in that regard. For that reason, like sort of the air there.
There-ish? Okay, I'm down for that.
Yeah.
I think
like,
I agree.
They're all really close to getting there. It's just like it's the opposite problem with Witches, right? Like DP already has so many good cards. You need extra good to really get there, and the cards are really good. They're just not extra good.
I think that's a really good way to actually look at it. Now I will rebuttal you on the fact that I do think the grade 2 does push out Die Kaizard at the very least. I think ditch 1 for a force marker, especially if you're going force 2, doesn't do too much until you got your Twin Order live. I think getting that extra attacker that just converts itself back to hand, way more effective. But that's definitely something up to testing, up to debate. Let's get into the next card. Dudley Emperor Reverse. Now, I myself am not a huge Spike Bros enthusiast, but I like the aesthetic of Dudley Emperor, and just Dudley Emperor. Everyone else in the Dudley clan, but Dudley Emperor is cool. So, to see DER, I was middling in hype, but because I'm not an American football kind of guy, can't be over the moon with it.
Yeah, I was pretty excited as well, like, for opposite reasons. Like, I've never been excited about the Spike Brothers aesthetic, but I've always enjoyed Spike Brothers gameplay. Like, it's very technical, like, there's a lot of moving pieces, you're always doing a lot of things. Not always to good effect, usually to bad effect, but, like, it's a very involved deck, and that's why I like it a lot. And there was already so many good grade 3 options. Like, when you think Spike Brothers, especially in the V series, you think Rising Nova, like, what can I do if I copy this with Rising Nova? And Dudley Emperor, had some pretty big shoes to fill. Like, Lucifer's already very good, base Dudley Emperor was already really good, you're still playing stuff like Bull Spike, Cycloned, like, there's a lot of slots to compete for. But Dudley Emperor, like, does it really, really well. I don't think it's as exciting or as interesting as, say, the bringing back Ogles, or giving us like more Dragger support, or even just like again like classic Rush support. Spikes doesn't have a huge wealth of history to draw upon like Royals or Gears does. Hint, hint. But I think there's enough that they could have done rather than like doubling down on the existing things. But at the same time, they've doubled down on the Dudley support in a way that isn't linear or boring. It's not just a rehash. It's like, okay, here's like something that's actually executed fairly well. Kind of like Ethics Reverse. It's more of the same, but just better. And so I think for that reason, it's fairly high up the Stonks end. But yeah, I'm not super excited about the design-wise. Like, they could have printed the exact same effects on any other Spike Brothers card, and it would have been fine.
I think what I do appreciate a lot about Dudley Emperor Reverse is how generic it is. Despite it having a Dudley name, nothing in the effects actually restricts you to locking a Dudley, to calling a Dudley. Obviously, having Dudley Emperor on the rearguard does help activate the first effect, but Spike Brothers is not short of having bottom deckers during the battle phase. So it's definitely an option that you can go into as well with Rising Nova, combine it with Bolt Spike, and you've got a really good Vanguard there. Multiple drives with that Force 1-2. Let's talk about the other support as well. The new grade 2, that card is really good. That is one extra attack. It might read very lame, it might read very like middling, but that is one extra attack in a Force deck. That one extra attack could mean a lot of things. That one extra attack is another attack for Dudley Emperor to bottom deck something, so that way Dudley Emperor reverse has something else to lock. That one extra attack might be another way to just shuffle more force markers. And then Machine Gun Gloria, I'm not a huge fan of her skill to Counterblast 1 and call herself, since Counterblast 1 is a very precious resource. Now, Spike Brothers does have Lucifer, which is a very easy source of countercharge, but that's heavily leaning towards the Dudley side of things. So nothing super generic in the way of countercharge. I do appreciate her second effect though, because outside of playing in Dudleys, that is one really good way to actually just get instantly 2 bottom decks for yourself.
Yeah, it's not insane, but it's just like kind of cool. Like, I agree, the grade 2 is a lot more important than the grade 1. But I think the important thing is, like I said, the genericness of everything. Like, the fact that up until now, you were basically just splashing Rising into a Dudley deck, whereas now you have the option of, like, okay, I can either go deep into Dudleys and maybe even cut Rising altogether and just focus on riding Emperor, or I can play a bit more generic and play like Bull Spikes, Glorias, etc., and just be a bit more pressurized in all areas. And I think that alone is what really pushes like Spike Brothers as a whole. And Spike Brothers up to this point was already very good. Like, people are forgetting, they're worried about Luard and Prism and all this stuff, but Spikes was very high up in tier 2, not far behind. And I think everything here just serves to really solidify that position.
And finally, the Queen, the Majesty, the Empress, Lukier Reverse. Obviously Max Poggers here from me. Absolutely Max Poggers. Now, as for strength-wise of the support, ignoring Lukier Reverse to start things off, Anna and Marichika are fantastic for the Silverthorn deck.
I actually want to say the opposite, because the problem is that they don't do anything in Premium. They are literally bricks in Premium.
Oh, okay, so because of their invalid usage in Premium, we're pushed back to the middle again. So
they're good in V.
Yeah, they're absolutely good in V.
But they're not amazing in V. They're not if we look at the historically the best rear guards for a clan ever, to me a 10 out of 10 is Percival, and Marichka is not Percival. That's my problem. It's good, it's, if you're looking at just Marichka alone, I would put it just slightly to the right of Hyaki. Mm-hmm. Just a little bit, barely to the right of Hyaki. And same with Anna. Anna's good, but it's not whoa, this changes how the deck plays. So I would put Anna slightly to the left of Himiko.
Okay.
So they're great, but again, I think it's the exact same problem with DP. Pale Moon already has loads of really great cards, and especially for Silverthorn, the Silverthorn game plan is so straightforward and linear. Silverthorn doesn't need good cards. Silverthorn needed cards that just broke the deck wide open, because there's already so much power contained on the Vanguard circle, and Anna and Marichika don't do much to move the power off the Vanguard circle. They just supplement it.
Okay. I think more so for me, it was the fact that, although it's something unfortunate that I don't like to see, and that is ride timing specific effects, like Anna getting her skill when she's rolled upon, and then Marichika having that really good on Vanguard ride skill. And the problem with that is you only ever have one effect usage out of that. But in a deck like Pale Moon that uses the soul as a toolbox, it's good to ride into those, and that's why I was willing to overlook that once and done kind of effect, because once you ride into them, they're in your soul, and you can use them for their second effect, compared to other stuff in what we've seen the Raptors, what we've seen in the Dungaree ride line as well. Having cards that do something on the rearguard as well that are relevant and have longevity. I thought that because the longevity of existing in the soul was really good for both Anna and Marichika, having every turn a way to countercharge. Now, mind you, unfortunately, having that really lame cause, if you did not countercharge this turn, that cause sucks. That clause is doo-doo. That clause is on the same tier as if you did not ride this turn.
And the one thing to note is that no matter, even though we're saying that Marichika and Anna aren't that great, Silverthorn is now still, probably one of, I think it's
the best.
I think it's almost as good as Luard in current V. I think that deck is absolutely nuts. That's one thing to be aware of here. We're saying all these things, So if we look at just V, Luquia is like, it's in the same vertical space as Cecilia, easily. But it's, they're just missing a few things here and there. Like, the deck is still absolutely great. So I think, like, as it currently stands, even considering the negs in premium, I'm still putting it, like, close to Hyaki, like, in that sort of ballpark, for sure. Like, yeah, like, it's still really, really great. But I also want to discuss one quick thing, before we get into Luquia, is that I do want to push the Poggy level down a bit, just as very, like, a smidge, because, and I think you're going to agree with me here, we were expecting Zelma. Or
yeah,
rather, we wanted Zelma.
I wanted Zelma.
Everybody wanted Zelma.
Everybody wanted Zelma. Yeah.
We didn't get Zelma.
So
all they had to do,
burger.
all they had to do was print an 8K Zelma. That's it. That's all they had to do, and they couldn't do that. So I'm deducting points for that reason.
Fair enough. Yeah, getting Zelma would have been really just huge, just having that kind of effect again. But let's talk about Rukier Reverse herself.
I mean, there's not much to talk about, right? The card is absolutely busted.
She's fucking amazing. Excel, talk about Luard's Force Marker generation. Rukier's engine, that Axel Marker generation is just insane now. Venus, Rukier, and then if you're not going to resolve the Venus and choose to resolve the Dorian instead, that's a guaranteed rewrite for another Axel Marker. You're turning out 2 to 3 Axel Markers every turn cycle. By the time you go to the third turn, your front row is 8 units wide. You hit that front trigger, boom! That's a big ass turn.
Yeah, the insane thing is you can either play standard Lucia and play no Venus, or you can just play 4 Venus, 4 reverse. It's so flexible in its option because it's just generically good. There's no jump through this hoop. There's no this cost. There's no X restriction. It's just do this minor inconvenience of losing your back row and get huge benefits out of it. And this isn't even talking about the interaction between Dorian. It's that just adds to the fuel even more. So I think it's absolutely insane. There is no reason I would ever not play this.
All right, definitely agree. With all the different Pale Moon decks I play, Nightmare Dolls in Premium, Beast Tamers in V, Harry in V, and now Lukier, I think most times in V now, I'm definitely leaning towards that Lukier side of things. Definitely keeping the Nightmare Dolls on the side until they get hit. But yeah, Lukier in V, very looking to push that Pale Moon name up there. And so with that all out of the way, that concludes our Clan Collection Volume 3 and 4 Clan Alignment chart. As you can see, we are more leaning onto the Stonks side of thing here, but we need to remember that this set has been watered down a lot compared to what we're normally used to, from what we've seen in Clan Selection, from what we've seen in the actual core sets. These effects are very below average, so to speak. So we are being very generous here.
Yeah, the entire chart kind of lives this thing. What you see right now kind of lives on the left-hand side of the overall game chart as a whole. Nothing here is making maybe Jewel Knights, but nothing else is making huge splashes in Premium. There's very minor splashes in V, but I think we're still going to see Prism and Luard dominate the format. But I think the important thing is that it's playable, at least. You're not going to win BCSs with it, but it's not going to be a waste of money to go out and build these decks and play them.
And sometimes that's all that matters with Clan Collection, just being able to have an easy way to enter the V format. And with that, I think that's pretty much all we have to really say about Clan Collection 3 and 4. Despite the Clan Collection core, it's definitely something you can keep watching for the rest of the month and then some. In any case, this has been Token from Yellow Card Vanguard.
Yep. And Zistral, and once again, just speaking of building these decks, if you want to pick them up, head on over to our sponsor, Strictly Broken TCG, and use our promo codes SBTCG Toku TV or SBTCG Yellow Card to get 5% off site-wide on your order.
In any case, that's it from us. See ya.